Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Action for the Soul. This week's Parashat is Perashat Ekeb. Perashat Ekeb, continuation of a Moshe Rabbeinu's Musar, his tochacha, his warning, his rebuke, his clear, decisive, ideas that helped reshape the world. A reminder to the Jewish people of the connection to their faith. A reminder of our responsibility to develop ourselves morally, and so on and so forth. And the Parsha begins with the following words: V'haya Ekev tishme'un et hamishpatim ha'ele ushmartem v'asitem otam. And it will be because you have Ekev tishme'un, you have heeded or heard these tishme'un mishpatim, you've heard these mishpatim, these ordinances, and you ushmartem, and you kept them, v'asitem otam, and you were involved in performing them. And when you do that, He will keep you the covenant of chesed, of kindness, and that He swore to your forefathers. Now, this pasuk over here, let's meet these people. This pasuk over here is a fascinating pasuk because it's got so many different layers that I want to unravel for you today. So first of all, what does the word Ekev mean? Okay, the word Ekev, you'll notice, comes from the same shoresh as Yaakov, right? Yaakov and Ekev, right, are the same exact shoresh. And we know that Yaakov was given that name by Yitzchak because when Yaakov was born, he was holding on to the heels of Esav, right? So he's called, and as a matter of fact, later on, Esav actually complains to Yaakov. He says, Yaakvuni, right, that you gave Yaakov this name so he could go ahead and somehow bamboozle and hoodwink me into giving up of the being a Bahor. But there's something else over here. We know that Ekev actually means the heel. And if Moshe is going to choose words to go ahead and to describe his, the words to encourage the Jewish people to be involved in building and developing their Judaism, we have to ask, why did he choose this word? V'haya Ekev tishme'un et mishpatim ha'ele. Right? So let's turn to our best friend. Who's our best friend? We all know is Rashi. What does Rashi say? He says, V'haya Ekev tishme'un im ha'mitzvot kalot she'adam dash ba'akvav tishme'un. Right? He says, what does it mean? It says that if you will go ahead and heed the minor commandments, which one usually tramples on, right, with his heels, the Ekev, right, then you'll have the next part of the pasuk. God will go ahead and He will protect you, and He will give you the brit hachesed that He promised to our forefathers. Okay, so what is this? V'shamor, she says, Yishmor lecha haptechato, that He will keep His promises. So how do you get God to keep His promises to us? We had lots of promises to the Jewish people. So Moshe is telling us that the way in which we get God to keep His promises to us is if we are involved in keeping the mitzvot in a very deep kind of way. And when we do that, Hashem gives you this brit of chesed. The brit, the chesed, not only the brit, but the brit and the chesed that God promised to our forefathers, that He keeps His promises and so on and so forth. How do you get there? Right? He will love you, He will bless you, He will multiply you. Everything that you have is going to be blessed. But how do you get all the blessings? The Pasukim, Baruch tiyeh mikol ha'amim, you're going to be blessed from all the other nations. There will be no, lo yeh b'cha akar v'akara b'mtecha. You won't have anyone who's barren amongst your animals and your people and so on and so forth. Hasi Hashem kol choleh. You're going to remove all illness, all sickness, all evil, everything that's bad. God will consume all the people. So how do we get there? What's He talking about? Okay, so I'm going to share something with you that I think is super profound and very relevant, especially to the world that you and I are living in today, post October 7th. The word Ekev, okay, is also a code word for Mashiach, right? It's called Ikvot the Mashiach, Ekev, the footsteps of Mashiach. So what's he saying over here? He's saying, Moshe, B'haya Ekev tishme'un. At the end of times, for the people that are listening and heeding to my mishpatim, ushmartem, ve'asitem, and you're safeguarding them and you're performing them, then Hashem will protect you with his brit, chesed, and so on and so forth. So that's one way of understanding it. But I want to do something different. I want to show you and go through a Kedushat Levi with you today, okay? And he says something that I think is very relevant. It resonated deeply with me, and I'm hoping it will resonate deeply with you. And he says as follows. He says another way of understanding this pasuk is like this. He says, in general, some people serve Hashem and understand God's oneness through analysis, meaning they're using intellectual, stimulation, cerebral thinking to get to God. They serve him with his mind, and this person is able to comprehend God's divinity and his oneness and then serve him. So you and I can use rational mathematics. We could prove God's existence. How does the world exist? The distance between the earth and the sun and the moon is perfect to allow life. It must be there's a God. So you could get to God like that. However, he says as follows. He says, others worship God and grasp his oneness through faith, Emunah. So you have a cerebral connection to God, and then you have a one that is based on the heart, Emunah. He doesn't have to go ahead and resort to any kind of intellectual inquiry. He just believes there's a God in the world. We call it Emunah Peshuta. There's a God who created everything, and there's that. Two kinds of people. A guy with the mind, right? And a guy with the heart. Two people. And he says, V'haklalu k'mo sheyesh b'adam. He's the underlying principle here is that just as you have a head, a heel, and arms, so too is true with the service of God. There is the head, the trunk, the bottom. Okay? The first level is to serve Hashem with understanding, with through his intellectual endeavors. Highest level to connect to God is with the mind, comprehending the existence of Hashem in the world, seeing him, grasping his unity, and so on and so forth. That level is called Harosh. That's called the head. The second level is to serve Hashem through Emunah, through faith. You believe in God and his oneness, and you worship him. That level is called the Ekev, he says. The lowest level, right, is called the Ekev, right? The arms represent the love for God, all right? And therefore, the arms can be raised at times. They could go over the head. They could go under the head, heart, and so on and so forth, right? But you don't have a full understanding of him, but you appreciate his oneness. You understand intellectually that the world is all God's, and through this you come to love Hashem, but it's coming through your heart and not through your mind. And that's the arms that are going up and down at times, okay? But then you have this idea, V'haya Ekev tishma'un, right? He says, V'zeh shepiresh Rashi, and this is what Rashi says when he says, it is because you will heed this, right? Mitzvah Shadam dash ba'akvav, and this is what he means. He's alluding to the commandments that a person tramples under his heels, and this is an allusion to the fact that your main service and comprehension of his oneness is through faith, the lowest of the levels. There are two kinds of people. There are people that do it because they know 100% it is intellectually true, versus another group of people that do it because they feel it in their hearts, right? And when you feel it in your heart, it's a nice thing, but ultimately, it doesn't get you to live a life of truth. And this is what he says. He says, Kol adam yachol la'avod et ha'boreh baruch hu al yedei ha'emunah shamamin be'emunah. Every single person could go ahead and believe in God with complete faith that he has in God. But this is what the phrase, it will be because, Ekev haya Ekev, v'haya Ekev. This is what he says this word means. He says the word for it will be, v'haya, is composed of the same letters of the name of Havaya. V'haya is the same words of Havaya. Okay? The first two letters of the name of Havaya, Yud, He, represent the first level of worshiping God, where you perceive God through the intellect. The last two letters, Vav and He, allude to the second level of serving God through faith. Our verse says, because Ekev, V'haya, Ekev, which also means heel, alludes to the main service of God through faith. Therefore, in the word V'haya, the letters Vav He comes before the Yud He. Okay? Ultimately, Hashem wants us to have an intellectual understanding of him and not just the heel understanding of God. In this context, he says we can understand the verse, right? The crooked terrain, ha'akav. The pasuk v'haya ha'akav le'mishor. Okay, he's quoting over here from Yeshayahu. The crooked terrain will become a plain. Okay, the crooked terrain becomes flat. This can be clarified in the comes to the Ramban, where he says, is because you will heed. The Ramban is saying that the word Ekev indicates a cause similar to the comments of the Targum Onkelos, who says, because you have accepted these things with your intellect, and now you have a higher connection to God. And therefore, what he's ultimately saying over here is because you have most people at the end of time don't have the ability of connecting to God with the intellect. They don't have the ability of using their intellect to understand and appreciate God's fullness in this world, and they're going to use their emotion, and that's okay. You don't have to be a Talmudic scholar in our generation to have a connection with God. You don't have to know every single Rashi and Tosafot to go ahead and be the guy that has a connection. There are people today that do not have an intellectual understanding of the depth of understanding of God, but on some level, they're greater than the guy with the Gemara and the Zohar and so on and so forth. I'm not saying we should allow our relationship with Hashem to be an emotional one. I'm just saying that some people have an intuitive connection to Borei Olam, and that's okay. That might be part of this pasuk. He's saying there's going to be a time over here, Ekev Tishmun, there's going to be a group of people at the end of time, right? Ekev, at the end, by Mashiach, that are living a relationship with God that's emotional, and that's okay, he says, because what will happen is that God will open it all up for you. He says that there's going to be a time that these people will be rewarded because you accepted upon yourself to have this level of understanding of a God through an emotional place, that eventually he will open you up to having an intellectual understanding as well. How do we get there? This is the key. How do we get there? Okay? And this is so true, by the way, especially in light of this past year for us. Vaya Ekev Tishma'un. What happens at the end of time? If we're Tishma'un. The word Tishma'un is often translated as what is the Shema, here. But there's another way of translating the word Tishma'un. The word Tishma'un could also mean to gather. Vaya Sha'ul, right? Shama et Am, right? He was able to go ahead and gather, Vishama Sha'ul et Am, and he gathered the people, right? So Vaya Ekev, at the end of time, Tishma'un, the people that gather together, and they make a kihila, and they're together, and we're united. Those people that keep the mishpatim, ushmartem, that's the people that God's going to go ahead and give them all the brachot for. At the end of time, there's going to be a challenge of unity. You see it right now. I mean, in America, I'm not sure if you're paying attention to politics, in Israel or even in America. In Israel, about October 6th, there's going to be a civil war in Israel with politics. It was horrible. But the non-Jews know this. The Goyim know it. They know, okay, you know what? We're going to get hit right now because Israel's united, but we'll wait a few more weeks and they're going to fall apart again, like it's happening right now, and then we'll go attack them again. In America, okay, it's all God. He's pulling all of us, okay? The two candidates you have is Donald Trump, okay, who's a complicated guy, and you have Kamala Harris, who did nothing. Two losers. America, 350 million people could only produce these two candidates. Think of the CEOs of the biggest companies in America. Awesome people, geniuses, brilliant. How come we can't get leaders today to do that for us? And instead of creating a world of unity, which would be so simple, you would think that basic things like security and economic prosperity would be like real big issues for America. That's not. Because if the powers that are pulling America apart understand that if you keep America divided, we will destroy this country. If you keep Israel divided, we will destroy Israel and the Jewish people. How do we get there? Oh, we need to agree on a set of rules. What are they? Mishpatim. Right? We got to keep them, not just believe in it. Not go to class and listen to the class and say, oh, Rabbi, nice class. Thank you so much for the inspirational words. No, it's about bringing it into our world, bringing it into our home, to our community. It's about living it. That's what Moshe is telling us. You want all the brachot of Perashat Ekeb. You want to be blessed. You want God to multiply you. You want to have the shefa coming in, your wine, your oil, your offspring, your cattle, the choicest of your flocks. You want all the promises of Yitzchak that came to Yaakov to come true. You got to be united. At the end of time, if we're not united, we will fall. We will see everything that's so beautiful about this country and the world that we're in right now fall apart. How do we start our working being united? What's my answer? My answer is it starts at home. It starts at the place where we're frustrated the most. Our spouses, our parents, our siblings. Start right now. Listen, it's obvious to me. God, we saw an open miracle like 6 weeks ago. Donald Trump was saying it was a miracle. I don't care what anyone said. It's a miracle. God could have come and had the police shoot the guy, arrested him, crook, before anything happened. But he didn't. Hashem allowed this thing to happen straight out so that Donald Trump would move his face and a bullet that should have gone to his head went this way instead and scratched his ear. Why did God want to do that? Why would he want an open miracle like that to happen? Not for an accident. He wants to say to you, my friends, I'm here. I'm watching what's happening. We know from the Chachamim that all politics is Hashem pulling the strings. None of these people have Bechira. They're crazy. All crazy people in politics. But God is doing this to let us know that we're getting closer. And as we get closer, things move faster. And as things move faster, we make more mistakes. And as things move faster, we make more mistakes. Where do we make mistakes the first? At home, with our family, with our friends, with our community. This is the time of the year, right before Rosh Hashanah. Oh, it's crazy to say that, I know. We're like 5 weeks away. We're a couple of weeks away from the Selichot. We're a couple of weeks away from going through that whole process again of reevaluating our year. The places that we need to go ahead and invest in the most is recognizing, number one, that Hashem loves you. There is no bad in this world. There's only good. Number two, that we need to work now on unity more than ever before, because as Mashiach comes, the winds blow harder, blows everything apart. We need to hold on to our people, our community now more than ever. And when we do that, and we have our bitachon, and we have our emunah, Hashem will give us the ability of seeing all the brachot that He's dying to give us all. So I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom Mevarach. It should be a Shabbat of peace, a Shabbat of chesed, a Shabbat where we're able to cling to our beautiful families and our communities and watch the Shefa that God is so willing and ready to give us. Watch it all trickle down at the right time soon, inshallah. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.